Hey everybody! Before we get started with our regularly scheduled Wednesday programming, I thought I would be remiss if I did not at least mention in this video the attacks that happened yesterday in Brussels, the terrible, tragic attacks. And I wanted to say that if you are watching from Brussels, we are with you. You are not alone. We are praying for you, and we love you. Pray for Brussels. Pray for the world. I love you all. Let's study the Word. Hey everybody, my name is John and welcome to A Day in the Word, ADITW, the internet's favorite Bible study. For those of you who are regulars on this program, you know we just finished up a 11 week study of Daniel, and now we're hopping into a brand new book. I am very excited to announce that we will be hopping into the book of Hebrews. Now before we hop into the reading, I think it's important that we get some simple information, some basic context for the book of Hebrews, because it's always important to know the context. So the author of this book is unknown. A lot of people think that it might be Paul, but really no one is exactly sure. The structure of how this book is put together, of how it's written, is also unknown. It sort of begins like an essay, but then it continues as a sermon, and then it finishes as a letter. So no one's really sure what category to put it in. And the specific audience is also unknown. We're not sure exactly to what people in what area this book is written to. What we do know is that it is written to Christians with a Jewish background. One thing that we do know is that the purpose of this book seems quite clear, and that is to encourage struggling Christians to continue living strong in their faith. And that's what I hope to do through these next 13 weeks of Hebrews. Okay, let's dive in right away, reading Hebrews chapter 1, verses 1 through 4. Uno through cuatro. Yeah, I got it right! So in not so many words, these first few verses are basically saying that Jesus is awesome. The writer is saying that in the past, God used to send his messages through the prophets, but when Jesus came, God sent his message by his Son. And I think it's really important to notice the language that is used in verse 2. It says, "But in these last days, he has spoken to us by his Son." And what this tells me is that Jesus not only spoke the message, but Jesus himself was the message. Which I don't know about you, but it encourages me because it tells me that we don't worship a God who just talks the talk, but we worship a God who puts on flesh and walks the walk. That is so encouraging to me because that means that when I'm struggling or whatever I'm going through, God just doesn't have words to comfort me, but our God is a God who takes action. I told you there was going to be encouragement. Okay, let's move on now to verses 5 through 14. That's just 5 through the end. Read it and weep. So we're about to enter into some new territory here in talking about angels. Now I know that a lot of us have that question. We wonder, do angels exist? And the Bible is full of verses and stories and accounts of the angels, and you can hear stories of people even today who have seen angels or experienced angels. And you'll find some people in the church that say, yes, angels do exist today. And you'll find other people in the church that say, no, angels don't exist anymore. And I'm not saying that I do believe angels still exist. I'm not saying that I don't believe angels exist. And regardless of whether they do or not, that's not really the point that this chapter is making. It's clear in the text that angels are considered this higher, very spiritual form. In verse 14 it says, "Are not all angels ministering spirits sent to serve those who will inherit salvation?" So we see that in like the God business, the angels are pretty high up there on the heavenly hierarchy. The point that the writer is making here is that as amazing as angels are, Jesus is even more amazinger. Jesus is above the angels. And I think that this section can easily be applied to our lives, even outside of talking about angels. And that's that if we are to serve God, if we are to be followers of Christ, then we have to remember that Jesus is seated at the right hand of God. Jesus is not only above all things in this world, but he's also above all things in the next world. In the end, I think that the encouragement that the writer of Hebrews is giving in chapter 1 is that this man, this Jesus, whom we are putting our faith in, whom we are worshiping, he is worthy of it. He is worthy of all praise. He is worthy of all worship because he is seated at the right hand of the Father. Jesus is above all else. That is the end of chapter 1. Chapter 1 in the books. As always, thank you all so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I really do. I love you all. I hope you'll watch more Day in the Words. I hope you'll watch more videos. I hope you'll give this video a like, maybe share it with someone who might be encouraged. I'm really going to be focusing on encouragement through this book. That's the original intent of the book as far as I read, so I'm going to use this study hopefully to encourage you in your walk, and I hope that you were encouraged today. Alright, I'm done talking. Have yourselves a great Wednesday. I hope it started out really great, and I hope it continues to be great. You're great. Keep being awesome.